This chapter talks about the results section in a scientific article for health research. In short, the results section is the link between the methods and the discussion sections. It provides a clear and concise summary of the findings from the research study, and the findings are presented in the same order as the statistical methods presented in the methods section. And finally, the results section should be free from any interpretations. So you might think that the results is the simplest section to write. However, the results section needs to be carefully prepared so that you can maintain the reader's attention and interest, and to facilitate understanding of the study. Although the results section generally only contains the quantitative information, except for qualitative and mixed method studies, it should still be easy to follow and understand. So presenting the findings in the results section in the same sequence as the statistical methods can improve the flow of the paper. So in general, the results section has the following order: the study sample or population characteristics and descriptive statistics, followed by the findings from the primary analysis, followed by the findings from the secondary analyses, and lastly, any additional findings that may be important to the understanding of the study. So for the subsection of study sample characteristics and descriptive statistics, in general, these are the first element described in the results section. This can also include a flowchart detailing the inclusion and exclusion criteria that were applied to obtain the final analytic sample in your study. And rather than being overly detailed, the sample characteristics should be summarized using key information. So you could present concise information on the characteristics that are interesting and or important to your research question, and then cite a table containing more detailed information. This subsection can also include the descriptive statistics for the outcome or explanatory variable, including the prevalence of a categorical outcome and or exposure, the incidence rates of the outcome, or the mean and standard deviation of a continuous outcome or exposure. As we mentioned in the video for tables and figures, typically descriptive statistics are presented in Table 1. In this subsection, the findings of the main research question based on the primary analysis are presented. So these can be estimates from the crude or unadjusted and the adjusted models evaluating the relationship between the main exposure and outcome. When doing this, you should note whether the relationship changed or remained the same after adjusting for confounders. In general, the findings from the adjusted model for the main relationship under investigation are presented in Table 2. So when reporting the estimates in Table 2, use caution not to introduce the Table 2 fallacy. After the primary findings, you can present the findings from any secondary analyses, including interaction, effect modification, or subgroup analyses. Note that findings from these secondary analyses should be presented in relation to the primary research question. So no new interaction should be added without providing justification in the earlier section. This is to avoid any data dredging or p-hacking. The relationships between confounders and the outcome can also be described, but not interpreted, in order to help readers understand the relationship under investigation. Lastly, any additional findings from sensitivity analyses or other interesting findings can also be presented. So a well-written results section should describe the study findings without being too pedantic or repetitive. It should present the study findings in a clear and objective manner. In addition, the information should be presented in a logical flow as a story. Some authors choose to write the results section before writing the other sections. And regardless of the order in which you write your paper, you should always keep in mind the whole story of your study and what is the key message that you're trying to convey with your paper. Lastly, the results section should provide the study findings based on the research question and the methods. The most common pitfall of the results is including components of the methods and the discussion sections. There should be a distinct separation between the methods, results, and discussion, and this separation is encouraged because readers may be interested in different sections. Some may be more interested in the methods because they want to replicate them. Some may be only interested in reading the results to include them in meta-analysis, and some may skim through the results as they're more concerned with the interpretation in the discussion section. So having a clear separation of the sections can help the readers quickly find the elements that they're most interested in. Another pitfall is not reporting clearly which findings are from the primary or secondary or sensitivity analyses, as this can be confusing to the readers. Additionally, focusing too heavily on the crude or unadjusted analysis should be avoided, as most unadjusted estimates from observational studies are likely confounded. Moreover, it's very important to report the findings objectively, without trying to influence the readers. For example, it's misleading to write an effect size was marginally significant when it was not statistically significant at a 5% significance level. In addition, it has been argued that only presenting p-values can be misleading. In addition to the p-values, including the 95 confidence intervals provides additional information, as the confidence intervals can tell us about the direction of the effect size, the size of the effect estimate, as well as the degree of precision. To conclude, some tips for writing the results section. First of all, the results are generally presented in the past tense. However, when referencing a table or a figure, they may be described in the present tense. Having subsection headings can improve the readability and flow of the results section. And always be consistent in the way you report the study findings, such as the order of the presentation, for example, the exposed group followed by the control group, the number of decimals, the terms used, and the units of measurement. In addition, it's encouraged to include the absolute counts when presenting relative measures. For example, if you're reporting proportions, provide the counts in parentheses. And though it's crucial to describe all tables and figures included in the article in the results section, you should avoid reporting redundant findings and instead try to be concise and summarize the key findings, such as trends or patterns that are present in the data, group comparisons, or key estimates. In the results section, only present what's necessary for readers to understand the interpretations and conclusion that you're drawing about the research question in the next section. As with the other sections, excess information can be distracting from the central point of your article. And finally, it's important to not include any interpretation of the findings or data, as you'll have an opportunity to interpret the results and provide explanations in the discussion section.